I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium, a Taino era walk, and this is my final Q&A for the Psychic Mediumship course beginning January 7th. Now, we are Evergreen, so you can join anytime and attend the school, interact with the assistant teachers and myself in live Q&As and do all the things. But if you would prefer to be with a group, right now, a lot of people are switching mentalities. We're getting out of that COVID mentality. We want to join in more with community. And so if that's something you feel you want, or that it will help you in your evolution, increase your intuitive intelligence, because it is hard to learn this in a vacuum, I'm not going to lie. That may be the way for you to go, but you have 3 different options. So for the Psychic Mediumship course, you can attend here at the Academy in person. I'm going to warn you, with the weather out this way, that may be something you want to do very tentatively. You're not locked into that by any means. You can also, and this is what most people do, they say they want to attend in person when they can. If you are planning on attending in person mostly, you do want to register and hit that in-person button though. I do need to know whether or not you're likely going to be showing up here. Okay. The alternative is to attend online. So you're in the class with everyone. We use Google Classroom. And if you can't always do that, because this is adult learning, of course, maybe something comes up with your job or your kids, or life happens and you can't make it that week, you will get the video download once it's done, going through the process, and you will still be on track with everyone else. Now, one of the common questions I get are about missing classes. Are you on a strict deadline? No, you're not. So again, because this is adult learning, you're going at your own pace. And the same thing goes for the Evergreen program. Yes, you're with other students in the Q&A and in the chat, and, you're working with volunteers from the public and assistant teachers and myself and all of this, but you're doing it at your own pace. It's really the same idea for the group beginning January 7th, but I would ask you, if you don't plan on being on track with everyone else, why not just do Evergreen? If you really think you're going to constantly be behind by a few weeks or a month and a half, you may just want to do it that way. The point of the group is really so that you're with a bunch of other people and you're learning off of one another. It speeds up the process in increasing your psychic, mediumistic, and empathic abilities. All right. So keep it in mind, but no, there is nothing specific you have to do. If you purchased a class, you can take that class whenever you're ready to take that class. Okay. You will have payment options. Now you'll see these up on the website. You can see the runner down at the bottom of the screen here. So you can go to ivyleaguepsychicacademy.com. You can go to psychicmediumshipcourse.com or ivyrivera.psychicmedium.com. And you can see, when you click on the Psychic Mediumship course, all the different types of payment options. I believe the new one that we added due to inflation, because I did not raise prices. I have not raised prices on my readings or the Psychic Mediumship course or any of the other classes for that matter. Okay. Since inflation hit and all this trouble began, really a couple years ago, it got really bad. So keep that in mind. But what we added in as far as payment is concerned are these options to pay on a weekly basis, or an as you go. So even if you need to miss a week or two, whatever, you can control all of that. Okay. And it didn't used to be that way. It was either like a pay in full or you would pay in big chunks. So I added this in for everyone's comfort level and, just to deal with inflation and all of that. So lots of payment options available. And, again, you're going to want to look at that and figure out how you want to register. So take the time to go to the site instead of like texting the business phone and asking a ton of questions there. Go there and read. okay, your options, and see what feels comfortable for you. Spirit will guide you in what it is that you should be doing. So we have here a 28-week program. That's what starts on January 7th. That is considered tier 2 in the psychic mediumship course. In the event that you look at it, you hear this today, or you're thinking that's too long for me to commit, there is a tier 1 option. That is a 10-week course. It's all video download. Tier 1 does not get you certified through the Ivy League Psychic Academy. You will not be working with me or assistant teachers directly. It will simply be recordings of the bare bones basics of my curriculum, but it is incredibly helpful. And some people do choose to start there. Often though, people who start there, by the 3rd week, they drop it and they join tier 2. And here's a big reason I think that's happening. And here's a big reason I think it's going to be happening this time. A lot of people have been asking with this round of classes, I have not taught this live in several years. I think the last time was during COVID. So what I'm noticing is a pattern of people asking whether or not it's okay for them to attend if they don't have previous training, if they are 100% newbies, if they really feel pretty insecure with their intuitive intelligence and abilities. They're not even sure they have gifts necessarily. But things do happen sporadically. They know they have something going on in symbology and paranormal activity, and they believe spirit is communicating with them from time to time. Their dreams are very vivid. They don't know if that's enough to make them successful at the tier 2 course. So the question again being, do I need previous training to come in for your tier 2 course? No, tier 2 is not about you having had previous training. Tier 2 is just the 28-week course versus the tier 1 10-week video download course. Tier 2 allows you to get certified. It allows you to work directly with assistant teachers. It allows you to work directly with me, obviously, every week. It is putting you in a unique position to also work with the public. We have something called the guinea pig system. And I started this about 15 years ago, where people in the public just went crazy for it. I would go onto social media and I would post, I need guinea pigs for my psychic mediumship students to practice on. And at one point we had a wait list of 250 people. So people would go crazy for this. They wanted to come in, they wanted to work with you students. And, you know, it was super exciting because when you're learning how to do it and you're trying not to come from a place of ego, you know, but you do want to build your confidence level for sure. The best way, the only way, honestly, to do that is to work with perfect strangers off the street. You really should not be reading your friends and your family and people you know, or people who hear that you're doing this and they reach out to you to see if you kind of got it. You know, these are all terrible ideas. In the curriculum, I'll break down why. But tier 2 allows you to work with our guinea pig system. Anyone here tuning in has ever been a guinea pig? Have you ever volunteered at the Academy and worked with the students? If you could please post some words of encouragement or whatever your experience was. A lot of students here at the Academy actually were guinea pigs once, you know, so pretty interesting. Anyways, it's a great vibe. And so that's the difference. You know, tier 2, once you're certified, is also going to give you lifelong work opportunities through Ivy's Healing Call Center, Ivy League psychic fairs. Like, people hire us and pick out how many readers they want. And then we go places and we work for corporate events and business events and wineries and all over the world. You can also get spillover work. So I put you on a group page called ILPA Opportunities, which is Ivy League Psychic Academy. We're ILPA. Okay, so ILPA Opportunities page. You'll be on there to take any spillover work. You know, there are all kinds of opportunities, and that's not available through tier 1, like I said, because you can't get certified through tier 1. So yeah, I would always say this also. For those of you who come in insecure, you're probably going to do far, far better than you think. And I don't ever like to see my students as being in competition with each other. But I will tell you, there's always someone in the group who has a big ego and they think they're amazing, often because they had previous training and it's all wrong, okay? And then you get your people who come in who have no previous training, they have no self-esteem in this area, and they end up being the best. So what we're really looking for are people who are humble, who aren't trained and tainted by other trainings. This training is unmatched. There is no training you could have gotten anywhere else internationally that will be similar to what you're about to learn here through the Psychic Mediumship course. I use something I designed from a lifelong experience and working directly with spirit. My method here is not influenced by any other training internationally. It's called the PEC method, the Psychology of Energy Communication method, and it's going to break down all three of the intuitive intelligences, psychic, mediumistic, empathic abilities. And these are innate in everyone. They're not gifts whatsoever. They are present in all of us, but some people do have it to a heightened degree, and some people have blocked it more than what they should have. That's typical in society that presses it down, right? So I am bringing you in here simply to help you to unblock in those areas where you need to be unblocked. We're reconnecting you to what your natural abilities are. And then where you have some failings, some gaps and holes, and this is the really important part, I'm going to fill those in through a series of education, but exercises. You're not aware of what's going on in these exercises. They are simply triggering events, opening Pandora's box, and connecting you to that ability. Once you have connected, you cannot disconnect. You could try in the future to block it. I don't know why you would. Okay, but when you come in for this course, you really need to be ready for the levels up. We are also breaking this down, again, through my method, unmatched internationally, not like anything else. So, you know, you're going to be able to explore and identify what abilities you really have activating at different times. What a lot of readers, even those who've been doing it for 50, 60, 70 years, what they don't understand at all about doing psychic mediumship readings is where the heck it's coming from. And that's something we focus on heavily here. So I don't just want you increasing your psychic, mediumistic, and empathic abilities. I want you to be educated on where it came from. If, you know, we're talking mediumship, for example, okay, great. That means that you're getting information, you're channeling from a spirit. What spirit? An animal, an angel, a guide, a deceased person, you know, and then we want to rule things out. You're also trained in paranormal work. You know, we want to rule out that, you know, make sure you're not talking to dark entities. You have to have discernment, okay, in your training. And that's something that's lacking from most trainings out there internationally as well, because that's another part that the typical reader doesn't understand. They don't know not only who they're communicating with, they don't know if they're of a high vibration or a low vibration. So these are a couple of the different things that make the PEC method different and are going to protect you. Now, something else that's really important is that if you have a lot of disorders, anxiety, OCD, most of my students are neurodivergent. If you have depressive disorders, you know, things like this, a lot of that is connected directly to empathic ability, but it's also connected to psychic and mediumistic ability to a heightened degree. So what we don't want also is for you to come into class and we're putting you through these exercises and we're triggering all these new abilities for you and we're increasing the abilities you already have and we're unblocking all the things that have been preventing you from tapping in, and all of a sudden your disorders are getting worse. We don't do that here. The other thing is that I am watching carefully every single week with every single student, which is why we have limited seating in here and a ton of assistant teachers on staff. We are making sure that your disorders aren't getting out of hand because we see a lot of overlap. You can watch some of the free mini classes here on my YouTube channel at Ask Ivy, things like intuition and neurodivergence, trauma and intuition. Okay, there are a lot of, disorders that are misdiagnosed, and I'm not trying to prescribe or diagnose, but there are a lot of supposed disorders that are misdiagnosed as being an actual disorder that is actually at the root psychic ability, mediumistic ability, empathic ability gone awry. So we want to get that under control before we increase your ability in that area. And it's also, safer for your client. We don't want you going out there kind of out of control with your abilities. Okay, so those are just a couple of, the different things that I'm going to be focused on. I'm going to take some of your questions and comments right now. Actually, Kim, if you want to start popping those up. If you guys are tuning in late, please give this video a thumbs up, share, and drop a comment of any kind. It helps me out in the algorithm. Please do also subscribe. You could drop your comments anywhere. Kim, my producer, is going to be taking them from all platforms and transferring them over here to YouTube so that I can see them. I do want to break down in a minute some of the basic curriculum. All right, let's get to your questions though. How do I know if I'm blocked but have been open to my abilities? Okay, and this is coming from someone on TikTok. Great question. How do you know if you're blocked but have been open to your abilities? If you had the type of childhood where you were told that monsters weren't real, that ghosts didn't exist, if at school, especially around the age of 5 or 6, you were shamed for talking to your imaginary friend, you were humiliated for that, you were told as you were getting older that you couldn't talk about anything paranormal, anything spiritual, because the medical field was going to label you as crazy or mentally ill. If you were part of a religion that shut you down, anyone here a recovering Christian or Catholic, okay, where you were told that you're going to burn in hell for tapping into your intuition. Only the priest was allowed to do that, So if you were raised up in any of these conditions, and if you were raised up, let's just say in general in America, you're blocking. Not because you want to, but because you were trained to, and it was drilled into you beginning typically around age 5, that you have to cut from all of your intuitive intelligence. All right, so it's there. It's a guarantee that it's there. I have honestly never had a student come in who didn't have blocks I had to help remove. And that's even with people who are maybe like Reiki masters, or they have been practicing meditation, or they did ayahuasca trips. They went into the mountains of Peru and they've done, these medicinal shamanic sort of journeys. They dropped the acid, they ate the mushrooms. There is no one I have had in here who doesn't have blocks that need to be removed. So, quite frankly, there's just no way you're going to escape it, not in this modern world. Why is that? Because we live in a capitalistic, patriarchal society based on power and control, okay? And the church is right at the top of that internationally. And so this isn't allowed. If you tap into your intuitive intelligence, you take their power away. You no longer need them. Something like America, for example, also where it's a for-profit medical system. So they're profiting off of your mental illness. They're profiting off of your supposed disorders. OCD, the migraines, the constant ear ringing, the numbness in the face, the dizziness, all the things that come along with what they would label as maybe psychotic episodes, all the things that come along with mediumship and psychic ability and high levels of empathic ability. These are all things they're making a huge profit off of. They want you sick. They don't want you educated. They don't want you to be able to control the energy, because once you do, you may no longer need those meds. Okay, I teach a class, and this is actually part of your required curriculum, which I'm going to get into here in a minute. I teach a class called Empathic Awareness. I train therapists. I teach this at universities. I teach this in school systems. I train educators. So empathic ability is often at the root of all of this, because if you have empathic ability, you are automatically psychic and mediumistic. Okay. And that leads to the greatest amount of disorders. And I'm not saying disorders aren't real. I'm just saying there's nuance here. And we can't correct those disorders, whether they're actual or not, if we don't get to the root issue, which is out of control energy. Okay. Too much energy, too much information and absorption without any real education, power, or control. So that's what we do here. Okay. We are going to move on to another one. This is also from TikTok. And I just wanted to respond to the last part of her question also, where she said, I'm not trying to block. Like, I'm really trying to I understand that. And that's why the class is here. I know. It's really not as easy as we might think to just jump back in, because we probably haven't really been in since we were 4 or 5 years old. Training is brutal. Okay, by the world, by the toxic world around us. All right, TikTok has another question. I get tingles on my head as a confirmation. Yeah. So, when we talk about physical manifestations, when we talk about, the way our body is often the alert system, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, our body is often the first alert system that we have. So with physical symbology, we're going to receive things like the third eye in the middle of your forehead activating, getting red, getting itchy. I remember doing a radio show with this girl, and every time her psychic ability would activate, her mediumship would also activate. And when a spirit channeled, her third eye would open and she would get a big red dot, and it would be there for the rest of the show. It was nuts. But a lot of people get this. A lot of people get what you're talking about, the tingling at the top of the head, especially if you had cord around the neck when you were a baby, if you ever had a near-death experience, if you ever went through something really traumatic. Please comment in the comment section if you have something like this. For the rest of your life, it may actually be really hard to stop that from happening. It's constantly activated. This is your crown chakra. So your crown chakra is like a humming, a vibration, an itchiness, a tingling is the way you described it. And that's a sign that your crown chakra is wide open and you are channeling information. A little different than the third eye. Other typical physical symptoms are anxiety attacks. Who here has an anxiety disorder? So mediums are often misdiagnosed with anxiety disorders, because what happens when a spirit comes in to communicate, or if you as a medium walk through a pocket of energy that's very dynamic, you are going to typically have a disruption, to your nervous system. And it could be very uncomfortable. True mediums, not all, but most, have some type of physical activation in that area. And it can feel like an anxiety attack, heart palpitations, something like this. It's not at all uncommon to be misdiagnosed with an anxiety disorder and find that your therapist really can't help you. You can't pinpoint the triggers. It doesn't make any sense. The meds really aren't working, right? Because this isn't a disorder. Mediumship is not a disorder. Again, you have to manage this in a different manner. So you are going to be trained, again, through the PEC method in the psychic mediumship course. You're going to be trained in identifying when your mediumship is activating. And you're going to want to look for things like you just mentioned, right? Buzzing at the top of the head, the third eye, heart palpitations, or an anxiety attack. It could also look like perfusive sweating out of nowhere. It's almost like you're having some kind of a hot flash. And then we're going to break it down from there. Okay, what type of spirit is trying to communicate with us? And then we go, is it high or low? And then we go, okay, what's the message? That comes later in the curriculum. How do you get to that message? Without spitting a bunch of random symbols at your client and they walk away going, what the heck was that? I don't even know what that meant. Okay, so we got to do better than that. But that's a deeper story that comes later in the curriculum. Okay, we do 4 hours of symbology training. I do the symbology book that's going to be coming out soon. In addition to all of that, you know, we do body symbology, again, head to toe, like we were just talking about with the tingling starting at the top of the head. And we break down everything from numerology to astrology to animal totems to colors, you know, all kinds of things. And we learn from each other's symbol base, which is really fascinating and exclusive to ILPA. It speeds up the process entirely. So every group I've ever had its own exclusive symbol base, and that's just wild to me. What other questions or comments do we have coming in? Okay. Find Your Feathers says, yes, I have multiple times over the years, and they were amazing. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. What was I saying? Hard for me to tell. Okay. Feathers, clue me in. What were we talking about? Okay, so I'll pop that up in a minute, but she said yes, that she has been having that. So yeah, I have no context here. Sorry guys, I jumped from topic to topic very quickly. Not in the class, I promise you. I'm slightly more organized. Oh, guinea pigs. Yes, the guinea pig system. So yeah, so Feathers was a guinea pig and is now becoming a student. And, you know, it's pretty amazing to also, Feathers, if you want to post in the comment section, did you find it was pretty incredible to come in with a group? I don't know if you ever did this, but if you came in with a group when they were brand new, like they were working with the public for the first time, and then you come later when they're graduating. We actually have a graduation ceremony that is a gallery read where everyone goes up to the front, they deliver messages. It's phenomenal, okay? Or to catch them near the end of the 28-week course, it's amazing growth and professionalism, like at its peak. I will also say this, not to toot my own horn, right? But I'm very proud of my students. And we have constantly people coming back and saying, I cannot believe how good they were. You guys go out there into the public and you do better than people who've been doing this for 25, 30, 35, 40 years. People at spiritualist communities who are just bombing all the time. You guys go out into the world as baby graduates, baby psychic mediums, and you blow them away. Okay. Now, I don't believe in competition in light work, but I assure you, there's a lot of dark arts out there, and a lot of people will see you as competition. And the bottom line is, it's not about competition for us. It is always light work first, business second. But people who are going to be spending money and coming to you want the real deal. They want you to know what the heck you're talking about. What good is a psychic medium who doesn't even know what they're seeing or feeling or saying? And that is the majority of what's going on out there internationally, okay? Even the old timers, even the I'm seventh generation. We're all seventh generation. This is innate in all of us, okay? It's not a gift. So, you know, we'll get you there. Yeah, love that comment. All right, thank you. And we have, yeah, somebody asking about changes. Yeah, we're going to be going through a lot of changes in the course. We actually have a couple different dates set up, one earlier on hitting about midway and then one later, where we talk about the changes that you're going to be going through. So increasing your intuitive intelligence can trigger a significant amount of change in your personality, your emotional well-being, your ability to regulate your sleep patterns. And there is a free class up on my YouTube at Ask Ivy called Intuitive Increases. When you have a baby, when you get pregnant, if you had a wisdom tooth removed, okay, if you go through surgery, if you have a car accident, job loss, divorce, you know, I mean, a million things can cause it to happen, but there are some triggering life events that can really increase your intuitive intelligence. And when that all happens at once, you know, you may find yourself here looking for answers beyond the medical field, okay, as to what's going on with you. And that's probably at the base of it. So we can all look back at the last major intuitive increase we had. It doesn't have to be like a moment of enlightenment, or again, you went, to the caves of Peru and you had, a shaman kind of help you open up. It doesn't have to be a kundalini, or something like that. It doesn't have to be that. It happens naturally to everyone every 5 to 6 years on a cycle. But again, these life events that I mentioned, that may be the last time you significantly increased and you were never the same again. And you really need to learn to manage it with every increase wherever you are. New abilities, learn to manage them, okay? Ideally, I would like to see you giving it out to help people. Obviously, that's why I'm here. However, we do have students who come in here because they just want to develop themselves. They just want to get a better handle on what they think are disorders or misdiagnoses. They maybe just want to speak to their deceased loved ones. Maybe you lost a child or a spouse, or you want to better communicate, with your ancestors. If that's you and you're saying, this sounds like too much. I don't want to have to read the public. I don't want to have to do a gallery. I don't want to have to get certified. You don't have to do any of this. These are options in tier 2. Okay. So people come from all walks. And again, you can do this at your own pace. And that includes how far you want to take it. But if you want to take it all the way, we'll get you there. Okay, so Feathers says, it's Heather. Yes, I have been there for both. Brand spanking new students and at the end, in-person and phone readings. It's so awesome. All right, very cool. So yeah, and for those of you tuning in, or watching this later and you're like, I don't know if I'm ready to take the course. You may just want to come in as a guinea pig. We'll be posting it soon. Again, we start January 7th. So when the students are done reading each other, they're going to start reading the public straight away. And so we're constantly posting on social media. So follow me, come in as a guinea pig and see what it's all about, right? And like Heather said, yes, you could do it over the phone. You could do it. Sometimes we'll be doing it through Google Classroom or Zoom, and then other times in person. I do want to talk, before I get to more of your questions, a little bit about the curriculum. So again, the curriculum, the basic curriculum is 28 weeks. And you guys are going to spend 6 weeks of that also working with the general public. So 6 weeks out of the curriculum are spent on different types of classes that are required curriculum. And again, those are open to the public. So these are 2-hour classes each week. And those classes that are open to everyone are also available right now for video download. Now, if you're going to be taking the psychic mediumship course, so you go ahead and you take the ones I'm about to mention because you want to get a jump start, that's fine. I encourage you to do that by all means, but you will have to retake them. You're still going to have to purchase them. You're still going to have to retake them because the course is progressive. Okay, so it may not make a ton of sense right now. However, the classes that are open to the public are going to be empathic awareness, hauntings, clearings, and detachments, where I teach you how to protect yourself, use discernment, how to help a client clear the house, how to clear your own house, how to clear your own physical body, how to deal with people who have attachments and possessions, whether they be people in your life, clients. Okay, a lot of people are living with someone with a possession. This is a big deal. Okay, this is not easy stuff. And you really have to have the basic knowledge and tools to be able to handle this. You are also going to be attending with the public Meet Your Guides. All right, Meet Your Guides is introducing you to all 5 of the guides that are appointed to you before you come to Earth. That's your joy guide, who watches over your spiritual development. That's your work and money guide, who watches over your life contract. Your relationship guide, your protector guide, your Akashic record guide, who watches over your past lives. So you're going to meet each one of these guides individually, and you're going to have an interaction with them. Okay, they're going to gift you something. You're going to be trained in how to properly decipher when you're using the guided method versus the direct method in your psychic mediumship communication. You have to make a choice at that point. Which method do you want to use? Okay, so we're going to break that down. You are also going to do coffee with your angels. All right. So again, this is open to the public. It's through video download right now if you want to take it, and it is a required part of the Psychic Mediumship course. Coffee with Your Angels is going to break down the education about the healing entities of the universe, the angels, how they're often misconstrued for things like aliens, what they actually look like, how they actually communicate. They're kind of in a group of their own and have their own language. And then you're going to meet the two that are appointed to you with any possible extras. We're going to talk about why those may come in. So you're going to have an interaction directly with the two angels that are appointed to you. You're going to be receiving a gift. You're going to learn how to identify when they're coming in while you're giving readings from there forward. Okay, this is also great for those of you who say you don't want to take the Psychic Mediumship course, but you're a Reiki practitioner, or you do chakra realignment or quantum healing, whatever it is, psychic surgery, energy work. This is going to be a great class for you. Okay, again, because they're the healing entities of the universe. You know, if you're not working with angels, you kind of haven't taken that full level up yet. Or they could be there and you don't even know. You are also going to be taking a class called Karma Contracts and Past Lives with the public. Okay, so Karma Contracts and Past Lives is going to break down exactly what it sounds like. You know, what is karma? How does it actually work? How does it come into play when we're talking about having contracts with certain people, different relationships in our lives? Is this a karmic partnership? Is it a soulmate connection? Is it a soul tribe connection? You know, what does it mean? And then past life connection. You are students of the Psychic Mediumship course. You are also going to learn outside of this how to actually give past life readings. You are also going to be trained in something I do exclusively. I haven't met anyone else internationally who does it, called a life contract reading. If you're a client of mine, you've ever had that, I'm going to train you in how I did that. Okay. It always matches your Vedic or Western astrology and your numerology chart. I've tested out all three for the last 15 plus years. They are identical. Okay. So it's pretty amazing. You'll learn how to do that. Super fun. You will also be trained in the last of the 6 is relationships, boundaries, and cord cutting. All right. So has anyone taken that? Whether you had an addiction, you were overeating, you were smoking, you had a lover you couldn't let go of, you felt like somebody was kind of pulling and tugging at your energy and stalking you, you had a situation you simply needed to release. You know, if anyone has done the cord cutting class, I would love to hear from you in the comment section. But relationships, boundaries, and cord cutting class is essentially identifying what or who needs to go because it has become toxic for you. And we break down the education behind why cords are there. You know, cords that connect you to someone else specifically. It's due to a contract that you signed before you came to Earth. You agreed to work with this other person. Cords are keeping you stuck together, but due to cords, people can pull and tug at one another voluntarily and involuntarily, and that can become very toxic. It can feel, let's take a breakup, for example. If you broke up with someone and you're kind of addicted to each other, it's due to those cords in that contract, and they can haunt you. They're showing up everywhere. Their name is showing up everywhere. Signs and symbols of this person. They're showing up in your dreams. They're pulling and tugging at you through that cord, okay? Or you through them. And sometimes you just need to cut it. This is something for the Psychic Mediumship students. This is something you're going to need to be skilled at. So you're not just getting educated after that, you're learning how to actually train yourself in doing it and help your clients with that technique. And there's a lot of nonsense out there. You know, I want to say the last 15 years or so, I've heard a lot of people say light and love and peace and harmony, and you really shouldn't be doing that. We should be giving, and that's a terrible idea. Absolutely not. Boundaries are absolutely essential in every aspect of our lives. Okay. And this is just one of them. And if people don't cord cut when they should, they can actually, you know, end up just kind of really mentally unstable and feeling obsessed with a person or a situation. They cannot get the upper hand energetically. Okay. So don't fall for any of that. That's important to know how to do. Yeah. Let's see what else. Okay. You will have your graduation at the end in the 28th week. You'll learn how to give a gallery show. And that's fine if you're online. We've been doing them all the way through COVID, you know, not in person, but you'll be able to attend in person as well. And then you will have 2 assessments. You'll have a 15-minute assessment and a 30-minute assessment where I directly listen to a reading that you gave. And I give you feedback on how the improvements need to be made in order for you to actually get certified. Certification is not guaranteed, of course. This is a real school. But 99.9% of the time, my students do absolutely earn that certification. And again, you don't have to. If you don't want to do that part, you don't have to do that part. Okay. I would say that, if there were any, cautionary tales that come through here, people who don't get certified, it's always ego. And we start working on this day one. You have to put your ego aside. Your ego is fear, manipulation, control. It's thinking you're better than everybody else, or thinking you deserve more, you're entitled to more. Spirit should be giving me more. It's being fraudulent in your readings. If I bust a student lying to the client, faking it, what they don't know is that there are a bunch of teachers around them who are hearing exactly what's going on. And we are all trained here at the Academy to identify fakes and frauds and phonies. So if you're not authentically coming with it, you're not going to make it to certification. Okay. And, one of the other things that has cost a few students, not many, but a few, their certification is not being eligible for it anymore because they don't show up for the clients that are waiting for them. So professionalism is also a big deal here at ILPA. If you are scheduled to do a reading with someone, you need to show up, okay? So you do get a couple warnings. We'll break all that down, on day one, what the rules are. But like I said, it's very rare that somebody doesn't get certified if they are dedicated to getting certified and they're not coming at this with dark intentions or fraudulent, like money-making intentions exclusively, okay? Do we have any other questions coming in? We do, from a Christina C. Christina wants to know, you guys post your questions in comments now. We're going to be taking, if there are any more, okay, about the curriculum. What is a realistic amount of time someone should expect to dedicate each day to be successful in the course? Sometimes nothing. Sometimes probably 3 hours, because the curriculum is always going to break down to 2 hours, ballpark. So that's once a week, 2 hours. And if it comes with homework, you're not going to have homework every week, but you will often have homework. Sometimes that homework is something you do in your own time. Sometimes you are going to have to work with a guinea pig or an assistant teacher or a fellow student. So it depends on the homework assignment. So those could take a little longer, obviously. But yeah, I would say, definitely once a week, I would give yourself a 3-hour chunk of time because the curriculum alone is going to be 2 hours. And I think that most days, what you're really doing is being mindful, because we have spiritual evolution and we increase our intuitive intelligence, not necessarily through classes and crystals and books and certifications. We actually increase the most through everyday life events. So what I have you doing is paying attention every day, 24/7, including when you're sleeping. You're going to be keeping a dream journal from here on out. You're going to be paying attention to what's going on in your everyday life. And that's going to be your biggest classroom of all. So, it's more being mindful than dedicating massive chunks of time to this. Let's put it that way. Okay. Great question. Let's see. Do we have any others coming in here? Let me move this down. Okay. I see Jules says, okay, thanks. Okay, so Jules says the sign-up link wasn't working for me, but the raffle link is redirecting me. So I wonder if I signed up already. I don't know if you signed up already. If you're having any trouble registering, There shouldn't be. No one else has said that the link isn't working. We've been getting consistent registers. So if something is maybe down in the system, that's possible. Please contact the business phone right away or email. You just go onto the website, IvyRiveraPsychicMedium.com, and you can see where to message us. But let us know, and I'll get tech support on it. But you're asking, did I register already? You may have. Now, if you registered and you're trying to go in there and like register for the first class again, no, you know, it's probably going to sort of redirect you or tell you it's not available or something. I'm not 100% positive. I will let my assistants handle that part. But yeah, the raffle, as far as the raffle is concerned, okay. So Jewel says, I put my tickets into the raffle, but whether I win or not, I'm attending class. Okay. So yeah, you're going to want to get yourself registered again, because this is limited space. Okay. So if you are a person who bought your raffle tickets, just know we are pulling the raffle on the 6th and registration deadline is the 5th. Okay. So get registered, which basically means you're reserving your seat and you're purchasing the first class. And in the event that you win the raffle, hope you do, okay, we'll just reimburse you for that class. It's not a big deal. But don't like wait, okay, and then run out of room. This is a good question. Can you tell someone that they're going to die in a reading? So that's a great question, Rachel Ann. Thank you. Let's talk about ethical code of conduct. A lot of readers out there are dark arts. And a lot of readers out there who aren't dark arts don't have an ethical code of conduct. And saying something to your client like, I see your death. Or when a client comes to you, and they often will, they're going to want to know when they're going to die. People are going to want to know, I know that sounds crazy, but some people do. They're going to want to know when someone else in their life is going to die. Especially you get a lot of these older clients nowadays who are like boomers and their parents are dying, or maybe they're boomers, like they're Gen X and their boomer parents are dying. And they're so stressed out with the care of their parent, they just want to see them released. You know, people ask for all kinds of reasons, but we are never to give that information. And here are a couple reasons why. We have an ethical code of conduct, and we take a moral stance on this, that it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy if we start telling people when they're going to die. Also, we have a class in the curriculum called Do and Do Not Day, and we talk about lawsuits. We talk about, you know, again, contracts and release forms and things like this, right? You need to be mindful that there are certain things you should not by law be saying, because it could be traumatizing for the client. I don't care if they want to know, okay? And a lot of people will, like I said. So I'll teach you how to present information on that, what to say, the to-do and not to-do list. We're going to go through each one. We're going to break down each thing that's illegal or immoral individually. And I'm going to tell you how to present when a situation like this arises. In this example, you would just say something probably like, well, for legal reasons, I can't tell you that. And you could maybe validate that there will be some changes in the circumstance at some point, but you're certainly not saying what specifically that change is going to be if it's death. Now, here's another thing. And this is something, again, whether they're dark arts readers, they have no ethical code of conduct, or they're illiterate about how they're getting their information. When we talk about the future, we have two separate futures: free will future and destiny charted future. And if you've ever worked with a really good Vedic astrologer, they can show you in the astrology these little triangle points. Those are your death points. We talk about this a lot in class. Death is highly negotiable. So just because you see someone's death, or someone has a dream that they're going to die, which could be symbolic of a birth even, or somebody is worried that someone else is going to die, they have messenger of death syndrome, so they can predict these things. It doesn't make it 100% factual. It doesn't make it destiny charted all the time. Sometimes maybe it is fixed. That is their destiny point of death. But the average person has 7 different death points. So maybe it can be negotiated. I've negotiated my way out of 3 I could think of off the top of my head. 2 I saw in my astrology chart. So I knew they were coming. You know, there was one crazy experience living here. I had a death point. And I told my partner at the time, I'm not driving. I'm not going anywhere that entire week. I'm not leaving, hitting some black ice on the road and you know what I mean? Plummeting to my death over a snowy cliff or God knows what could happen. You know, it's tricky to outrun these things. But don't you know Omicron virus? Remember Omicron? The COVID virus that popped up out of nowhere? This thing came at my property that I was hiding in like a bat out of hell. I had 6 different people and he just opened the door and took cookies and gave me food that had been polluted with Omicron. You know, so I think it was 6 different people who called and said, don't eat or touch what I brought there. What I left there for you, I came out positive with Omicron virus. So you can have, but I'm fine. You know, you have to learn, and we'll break it down. You have to learn what is true and what is a warning and an alert in regards to death, tragedy, disease, right? All kinds of accidents. And that's going to also break down in the curriculum under messenger of death syndrome. Okay. But no, we're not going to tell anybody. Anyways, I went off on a tangent, but back to the point. No, we're not going to tell anybody that they're going to die. And shame on anyone who told you that. I mean, they really should not be working with the public. You'd be shocked at how many people are, though. They'll just spit that right out. They'll tell you when you're going to lose a child. They'll tell you that you're going to get divorced. They'll tell you that you're going to die, when a horrible accident's going to occur. And these things are negotiable most of the time, okay? Heather says, do you discuss insurance options to cover us as readers when we get certified? Yeah, we do some talk about business in the last couple weeks of your curriculum. We talk about how to do prepayments, just a suggestion. We talk about how to run parties. We talk about how to not be like outsourcing. We talk about insurance. We talk about what is appropriate to be asking for in return and when should you be charging like a full amount. We talk about all that. Insurance, though, I could tell you right now, you don't have to wait on that information. If you are working for a public event, like you want to go work psychic fairs or holistic festivals or something like that, they are probably going to ask you for proof of your insurance. So you can get it, you can often get that like through your homeowners or your, I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. And that says that you are an independent contractor, right? They're not insuring you. You're insuring yourself. But I guarantee they're probably also never going to look at it. So I don't want to steer you wrong, but I often go get it and then I'm holding it and they like never even care, you know, so whatever. They just want to make sure their rear ends are covered. That's probably the only time you're going to need that, if that makes some sense. Okay. Tax brackets are a whole different thing and we will get into that, you know, if you have questions. Okay, Rachel said, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, if you guys are having trouble registering and you're on your phone, you may want to get on the computer. Okay, sometimes just switching to a desktop fixes everything because there's really nothing wrong with the links right now that I've been told. Okay, by none of my assistants have said something's down or erroring. Also, if you're trying to register and you are having any trouble, you go to, again, psychicmediumshipcourse.com, ivyleaguepsychicacademy.com. So you have multiple options there for registering or through mine, Ivy Rivera, psychicmedium.com. Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Edgar Velarde says, I'm wondering, TikTok, they're about to shut me down. So you may want to switch over here to YouTube at AskIvy, same handle. Edgar Velarde says, wondering if we consistently get homework or projects while in the course. Yes. So I answered this one earlier. You do not have projects. So I'm not sending you, home having to make like a spacecraft, like a diagram of the, you know what I mean, of the universe or the planets or the underwater ecosystems or like anything super weird. We don't have any like major projects. What you are going to have though are exercises that you need to do on your own, not every week, but I want to say probably about half of the classes. A good example of that is like I teach you in something called remote viewing. This is used in criminal investigations, missing persons, and this is used in paranormal work, where you have to be able with remote viewing to find a body, to find a person, to track a car, to get a license plate number. You have to be able to find missing objects, right? Things like that. So we could not possibly get you to a place where you're getting good at it in the 2-hour curriculum that we have. So that's just an example. You'll be doing a lot of exercises for that. That's a substantial amount of homework. You're going to have to read the inside of houses. You're going to have to, almost like astro travel, you're going to have to travel in your mind's eye to places until you are getting specific detail on where things are that you've never been to, you have never seen or touched. You're doing it in your mind. Okay. And we will get you to a point, hopefully not everybody gets there, but a lot of people do, where you're good enough to work with private investigators, the police, again, missing persons cases. And this is oddly connected to paranormal work as well. Most of the homework though, like I was saying earlier, is, going to be giving readings. So either with guinea pigs through the guinea pig system, your fellow students, or with teachers. Okay. And that actually doesn't take very long. I would give yourself an extra, maybe 30 minutes to an hour of that per assignment. But your beginning readings are only like 10 minutes long. For a while, you're going to be at 15. For half the curriculum, you're going to be working with 15-minute readings. Okay, so it's not very long. And do we have any other questions or comments? By the end of the course, you will be expected to give a 30-minute reading. And the reason I cut it off there and I said, okay, that's good enough, they got it, because I have found over the years, I don't care who it is, if somebody can give a 30-minute reading, you could do anything. You could do a 1-hour gallery show. You could do a 2-hour gallery show. You could work a party. You could work a psychic fair. And we do train you in how to do marathon reads like psychic fairs, because the average reader can only give 6 readings before they completely crash, or their accuracy rate is garbage, or they get very dizzy, or they start vomiting and things like this. 6 readings. That's what the average reader can do. My students are at an average of 16, okay, to start. So, you're going to get trained in how to do all those things. But yes, we start at 5-minute readings, and then at the end of the course, you'll be up to 30-minute readings. Looks like we are at time. Are we good? Are we at time, or do we have any other questions? I think if there's anything else I really want to say. Kim, do we have anybody else? Feel free, okay, to message if you have additional questions that weren't covered here. And one of my assistants can get you all set. Jill, our head assistant teacher, will likely be the one answering any questions that you have. You can also, when you log on to look at the Psychic Mediumship course, you can see the full syllabus, and that often answers most people's questions. Okay, so like I said earlier in today's show, please go read everything before you start kind of pelleting the assistant with questions, because it should all be there. But yes, if you have anything additional, feel free to reach out. And Rachel Ann wants to know, can I take your course from Ohio? Yes. So we have students from India, we have students from literally everywhere. Okay. Because the class is going to run on Eastern time, because I'm in New York and I am teaching it live. So, we're going to be, I believe it's Tuesday nights, right? That's accurate. I'm almost 100% sure I'm accurate. Rachel not Rachel. Kim, can you double check on that so I'm not like screwing that up? Is the class on Tuesday evenings? I believe so, right? January 7th is a Tuesday. My phone's tied up with TikTok, so I can't even look. Starts January 7th, whatever day of the week that is. Okay, it's either Tuesday or Thursday. I believe it's Tuesdays. It's going to go consistently. It's going to stay. I set it up that way so it's not hitting a bunch of holidays, so it shouldn't be missing a bunch of weeks either. Okay, yes, thank you so much, Kim. So Tuesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. Now, like I was saying earlier, this is adult learning. So if you can't join online during that time, or you miss and you were hoping to come here in person to the actual school and do it, if you can't do that, you can get the video download. You're just going to have to wait until it downloads. And that can take usually 24 to 48 hours. It depends on, how slow the system is or how fast the system is operating. Okay. And then you'll get it and you'll still be on track with everybody else if that's what you wanted to do. But it doesn't matter where you are. Yep. This is an international school. We have been for, nearly 15 years. Absolutely. Any other questions? Hope to have you, Rachel. Okay, I think I got to everybody. Are we good, Kim? Are we at time? Or do we have any more? Also, if you guys are watching this, once it's published, feel free to post. I'll be checking the comment sections like I do with all my lives. I check for about 2 weeks. Okay, we are at time. All right, wonderful. Hope to see you guys. Again, the raffle to win a free seat for the course, $2,500 value. The raffle is ending on the 6th. So on the 6th, we're going to pick our winner. And if that student has already registered, which I highly recommend you do, meaning you already bought the first class, so you're locked in, your seat is locked in, we'll just reimburse you for that and you get a free ride. Okay. I think it's like $5 gets you 1 ticket, $20 gets you 5 tickets or something like that. So go on to Ivy Rivera, psychicmedium.com to get your raffle tickets now. Good luck. And registration deadline for the Psychic Mediumship course is the 5th. So go ahead and get yourself in there, and I will see you guys on the 7th. Very exciting. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Kim. She did a brilliant job. See you next time.